What makes the INFJ arguably the most dangerous of all MBTI types is not aggression or outward dominance, but the potent combination of emotional intelligence, strategic foresight, and the ability to manipulate outcomes while maintaining a mask of benevolence. Their danger lies in subtlety, not spectacle. They have a dominant cognitive function called introverted intuition. This function allows INFJs to perceive patterns, anticipate consequences, and envision long-term outcomes with uncanny precision. They can often predict others' motives and behaviors before they even manifest, giving them a psychological edge that most other types lack. This visionary ability, when turned toward personal ambition or revenge rather than collective good, becomes a tool for silent domination. INFJs may not raise their voice, but they rarely forget a betrayal, and when they choose to act, it's often with cold deliberation, masked by an appearance of moral righteousness. Their auxiliary function, extrovert feeling, allows them to understand and manipulate the emotional landscape of any group or situation. INFJs can read people with disturbing accuracy and often know what others need, fear, or desire before they do themselves. This emotional awareness, paired with a talent for empathy, makes them exceptional at earning trust. But trust, once earned, becomes leverage. When INFJs feel betrayed, threatened, or driven by an intense cause, they can use this knowledge to subtly dismantle relationships or reputations, without ever appearing overtly hostile. Another reason they are dangerous is because they are introverts. INFJs often work behind the scenes, preferring influence to authority and subtle shifts to open confrontation. They will wait, observe, and gather data long before they make a move. This patience can be unnerving. While other types may lash out in the moment, the INFJ will retreat into reflection, planning their response in a way that maximizes emotional and psychological impact. Their plans are rarely impulsive. They are calculated, targeted, and often enacted with a smile. Check out our newly released INFJ Mastery course and INFJ ebook. The links are in the description of this video. The moral complexity of the INFJ also contributes to their potential for being dangerous. While they usually operate from a strong sense of personal ethics, their version of right and wrong is deeply internalized and not always aligned with societal norms. When their vision of justice becomes absolute, they may justify extreme actions in pursuit of what they believe is a higher good. This moral absolutism, cloaked in quiet conviction, can lead to a chilling capacity for rationalizing manipulation, gaslighting, or emotional warfare if they believe the ends justify the means. INFJs are masters of appearing harmless. Their quiet demeanor, kind eyes, and articulate speech can disarm even the most skeptical minds. People often project their own ideals onto INFJs, making them seem more trustworthy and less threatening than they may actually be. This misperception grants them freedom to maneuver in ways more overtly assertive types cannot. By the time someone realizes the INFJ has been orchestrating events from the shadows, it's usually too late. When wounded, INFJs don't often respond with outbursts. Instead, they internalize pain, process it deeply, and transform it into strategic action. If they choose vengeance, it is rarely direct. Instead, they dismantle the very foundations of what the offender values, often with words, silence, or redirection of social currents. The target may never know the source of their misfortune, only that things quietly began to unravel after a certain moment. One of the most underestimated attributes of INFJs is their mastery of duality. They are often described as having two faces, one they show the world, and another they keep hidden even from those closest to them. This private self is not inherently deceitful, but it is fiercely protected. INFJs are intensely private, often revealing only what is strategically necessary. They have an uncanny ability to blend into social environments without ever becoming fully visible, giving them a chameleon-like ability to observe and analyze without drawing attention. This allows them to collect sensitive information, emotional, psychological, even logistical, that can be weaponized later, should the need arise. Another reason for their potentially dangerous nature is their perfectionism. INFJs tend to hold themselves and others to extremely high standards. When others fail to meet these standards, especially in matters of morality, loyalty, or authenticity, INFJs can develop a deep sense of disillusionment. This is not mere disappointment. It's existential. Once they feel someone has violated their inner moral code, INFJs may quietly but ruthlessly excise that person from their life. More dangerously, if the violation is profound enough, they may seek to expose, unravel, or morally correct the offending person through subtle social or psychological pressure. Their retribution is rarely loud or public. It's a quiet, methodical unraveling of someone's credibility, confidence, or connection to others. Despite being feeling types, INFJs are not governed by emotion in the way others assume. Their feelings run deep, but they are filtered through intense introspection. This gives them emotional discipline. They can experience hurt, betrayal, or rage, and yet show nothing. The emotional restraint they maintain often deceives others into thinking they are unaffected or passive. In truth, they're simply strategizing, storing their emotions like arrows in a quiver, waiting for the most effective moment to strike, if they choose to at all. This capacity to compartmentalize emotion while still understanding it in others gives them a near-clinical precision in social influence. The relationship between an INFJ's idealism and their dark side is crucial to their ability to be dangerous. Most INFJs deeply desire to improve the world or the systems around them. But when they feel powerless to effect change, or when their ideals are repeatedly crushed by reality, their idealism can become warped. Instead of wanting to heal the world, they may begin to resent it. This resentment, paired with their intelligence and insight, can turn them into architects of quiet sabotage. They are capable of destroying systems or people they perceive as corrupt, not through brute force, but by undermining them from the inside, using their knowledge of emotional dynamics and human weakness. Even in romantic or interpersonal relationships, an unhealthy or deeply wounded INFJ can become a dangerous force. Their love is intense, all-consuming, and often idealized. When that love is betrayed, they may experience a shattering internal collapse that reconfigures their sense of trust in the world. Some will retreat forever. Others will rebuild themselves around a core of steel. If they remain in the relationship or within the orbit of the betrayer, they may begin to orchestrate psychological consequences, again, not through open conflict, but through an intricate campaign of guilt, emotional mirroring, or withdrawal that leaves the other party bewildered and emotionally destabilized. INFJs have a unique relationship with power. They rarely seek it in a traditional sense. Positions of leadership, control, or dominance often do not appeal to them. But they do seek influence, and that makes them more dangerous than those who openly vie for authority. Influence is quiet, persistent, and hard to trace. An INFJ doesn't need to be the boss to control the room. They only need to understand the players, their fears, their needs, and their wounds. Once they do, they can direct the flow of events from behind the curtain, often without ever stepping into the spotlight. INFJs possess an unmatched ability to weaponize language. They are natural communicators, not just in terms of fluency, but in psychological precision. An INFJ who chooses to wound someone with words will not raise their voice or insult. Instead, they will use truths that cut to the bone, cloaked in calmness, and delivered in a tone so composed it's almost surreal. The person on the receiving end may not even realize how deeply they've been pierced until long after the conversation ends. What truly makes INFJs dangerous is not their capacity for harm, but their ability to disguise it as help, to bury it under the illusion of care, to turn empathy into leverage, and to carry out emotional and psychological warfare while still being praised for their compassion. Their ability to destroy, if they ever choose to, comes not from brute strength, but from a devastating combination of insight, patience, emotional mastery, and unshakable conviction. This is why the INFJ, despite their quiet nature, may be the most dangerous personality of them all. INFJs rarely act on impulse. Unlike some extroverted or reactive types, they do not need to explode to assert themselves. They will sit with discomfort, betrayal, or tension for long stretches of time, letting it ferment into something much stronger, clarity. When clarity arrives for the INFJ, it comes like a blade, detached from emotion, surgically aware of what needs to be done, and often frighteningly indifferent to the fallout if they've decided their course is justified. If they've reached this point, there is no reasoning with them. Their silent moral calculus is complete. Much of the INFJ's destructive potential comes from their unique relationship with trust. INFJs do not trust easily. When they do, it's total. They open themselves to people slowly, cautiously, offering emotional intimacy as a sacred currency. But when that trust is broken, INFJs do not simply walk away. They internalize the betrayal like a wound that must be studied, understood, and ultimately answered for. Their retribution, if it comes, is never about petty revenge. It's symbolic. It's transformative. It's about realigning the universe back in a moral order, as they define it. The person who hurt them may find their lives slowly unraveling, opportunities slipping away, social circles shifting subtly against them, never knowing it all began the moment that lost the INFJ's trust. INFJs are often perceived as kind-hearted, and they usually are, but kindness should never be mistaken for softness. Their kindness is often the result of intense, personal ethics, of a desire to uplift and protect. But it is also a kind of armor, a way to maintain social grace while masking the sharp, analytic mind that is always ticking beneath the surface. INFJs notice everything. They log it, process it, file it away. They know what makes people tick, and if they choose to dismantle someone emotionally, they won't need to raise their voice. A sentence, a gesture, or even deliberate silence can be enough to devastate someone whose emotional architecture they've already mapped. They are also masters of presence and absence. INFJs know when to vanish. If they are wounded deeply, they often retreat into complete silence, not as an act of surrender, but as a way to regain power. Their absence becomes a haunting echo. The people around them start to feel it like gravity missing from a room. Relationships that relied on the INFJ's quiet emotional labor suddenly begin to collapse without it. And if the INFJ returns, it will not be as they once were. It will be as someone who has recalculated their position and who now sees the offending party through a different lens, colder, sharper, more detached. INFJs are also long-term thinkers. They do not need immediate gratification. If a goal or consequence takes months or even years to unfold, they will wait patiently. That kind of endurance is rare. Where others become restless, INFJs go still. Where others lash out, they collect information. Their ability to wait, and to learn while they wait, is a weapon most never see coming. They understand that the most impactful moves are often the quietest, and that true power lies in controlling the narrative, not dominating the room. What makes INFJs truly formidable isn't just their intelligence, or even their moral compass. It's the fusion of those traits with an almost supernatural ability to detach from others when they need to. Most people live by emotional momentum, hurt someone, and they react immediately. INFJs, however, will feel everything in slow motion, metabolizing it in silence, letting it shape them internally while giving nothing away externally. But when they emerge from this process, days, weeks, months later, they are no longer reacting emotionally. They are acting with intent. And at that point, the damage they can do is deliberate, refined, and terrifyingly precise. INFJs are deep wells of internalized experience. Everything they witness is stored, layered, contextualized. They remember the subtle betrayal others forget they committed, the passive-aggressive remark at a dinner, the false encouragement, the failure to defend them when it mattered. INFJs rarely confront these things at the time. They file them away under a calm smile, allowing the offender to think it passed unnoticed. But it didn't. And when the INFJ makes a move, if they ever do, it will seem like it comes out of nowhere. But it didn't. It was decided long ago, with surgical clarity. Most INFJs have spent a large amount of their lives being misunderstood. This is because INFJs, more than any other type, often feel out of sync with the world around them. They see patterns others don't. They feel things more deeply. They value authenticity and depth in a culture that often rewards superficiality. The result? A sense of alienation that can harden over time into emotional armor. If their idealism is never validated, or their trust is broken too many times, INFJs can begin to retreat into a more calculated version of themselves, still kind on the surface, but internally detached, disillusioned, and in control. At that point, they no longer seek to be understood. They seek only to execute their vision, and anyone who stands in the way becomes a chess piece, not a person. In this shadow state, INFJs can become masters of social influence, able to manipulate without ever seeming manipulative. They will frame things in ways that appear neutral or even altruistic, but carry razor-sharp intent. They may never lie, but they will tell the truth strategically. They can elevate or dismantle reputations within a group without raising suspicion. They know how to isolate someone socially without ever speaking ill of them directly. Their strength lies in narrative control. They reshape how others perceive people and situations, gently guiding perception like a puppeteer pulling invisible strings. INFJs are dangerous because they are always watching. Even when they are quiet, even when they seem uninvolved, they are gathering data. Emotional data, psychological data, behavioral patterns. They can read when someone is lying long before it becomes obvious. They can sense when someone is insecure or when power dynamics are shifting. And because they are introverted intuitives, they often don't even know how they know. They just know. This insight is not theoretical. It's lived, and it gives them an uncanny edge in navigating complex interpersonal dynamics. They don't need evidence to know the truth. They feel it before it manifests. And if they choose to act on that insight, they'll strike at the exact moment when their target is most vulnerable, mentally, emotionally, socially. An INFJ at their best is a healer, a counselor, a quiet revolutionary. But an INFJ who feels betrayed, abandoned, or devalued becomes something else entirely, a ghost with a plan. They'll disappear from someone's life without explanation, leaving a silence that rings louder than any confrontation. Or worse, they'll stay, but change the energy. They'll no longer nurture, support, or advise. They'll observe, influence, and redirect. The result can be existential for those who depended on their warmth and insight. They won't destroy you loudly. You will do that yourself, slowly, after they have quietly removed every source of grounding or validation they once gave you. INFJs are dangerous not because they seek to harm, but because they are capable of deciding not to protect. And when someone loses the protection of an INFJ, whether it was emotional support, belief in their potential, or quiet advocacy behind the scenes, that absence can be devastating. INFJs often don't need to destroy anything. They just need to stop holding it together. And when they do, the collapse feels natural. No one suspects a thing. Their greatest weapon is not force. It's foresight, timing, and restraint. Their silence is never empty. Their kindness is never aimless. Their empathy is never blind. When they choose to become dangerous, it's not because they want power for its own sake. It's because they've decided it's necessary. And when INFJs decide something is necessary, it happens quietly and elegantly. Check out our newly released INFJ Mastery course and INFJ ebook. The links are in the description of this video.